All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, so today for our O level session, we'll be looking at this 2017 O level paper and we're looking at the non fiction text today. Okay, so to set things right, we'll not be looking so much at the answers. I believe most of you have the answers with you in your your 10-year series. But I think the value that we at Rise at Work are going to give you today is looking at the skill sets needed to uh, analyze the text and answer questions. All right. So do follow along closely with me as I share some tips and tricks. At the same time, if you have any questions regarding the text, regarding our skill sets, or anything under the sun related to English, do sound out as and when the questions come. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, we'll do something different, slightly different today, is we're going to take a look at the text first. And we want to um, understand the things that the text is asking us so that when we delve into our passage later, we will be more targeted in our analysis. Okay, so let's take a look at the questions. When we look at comprehension questions, we are interested to know the under which of the 5W and 1H the question is asking for, because this will affect the kind of answers that we need to find and thereafter provide. So looking at question 14a, in the first sentence, the writer uses the phrase, the world's car obsessed inhabitants, and we are looking at his attitude towards car owners today. So this one is pretty. I would say it's an inference question. But that being said, all of us know that there are only so many permutation and combination of attitude that we can give, right? So when we talk about attitude, first thing, just write down. We are looking at the kind of the writer's uh, feelings, etc. And some of the more commonly tested ones are like condescending. That means you look down on people. Critical. That means you have a lot of negative impressions and thoughts about a certain subject. You can have the writer is supportive. That means he likes what is being shared. We also have, you can say that his attitude is something that's he's very hopeful of something. Okay, so these are just some examples that we can use. Now, if you observe the phrase, they use the word obsessed individuals, which suggests that you are preoccupied with something. So you're so focused on uh, your cars, on buying, on using them that you ignore other things. So there's a negative connotation being attached to this term here. Now you can see the next sentence, the next question, they ask which word in the next sentence reinforces attitude. So we already, number one, we observe that obsessed has a negative connotation. So the attitude here likely will be critical, disapproving, etc. We don't know yet. We haven't read the text. We need to read the text ready to confirm our appreciation of the question now. Okay, the next thing. So once you already confirm that you are going to write critical or disapproving, then when you talk about word here, then usually the synonyms will come to mind. Okay, so this is the fastest way to search for the word and to be assured that what you have searched for is correct. Okay, now let's move on to question 15. they say from line 6 to 7, they ask you what kind of track do you think. So there is that level of inference here. So it's very likely that you need to analyze the contextual clues and thereafter come up with a certain conclusion or judgment on the kind of track that is necessary. In a similar vein, question 15b tests you on the types of accidents. So we're just looking at listing what kind of accidents will occur. So I'll say that the contextual clues will be there definitely, but eventually when we are looking at the type of accidents, the words that we may use may be a bit of an inference. We may need to determine based on the conditions what kind of collision, overturning of the cars there are. Okay. Moving on to question 16. Explain in your own words why the main streets within towns are often paved with stone. So we are looking at why. So the answer needs to be a reason. Now, when you have this term in your own words, you need to start thinking of replacing your adjectives and your verbs. These two need to be changed, definitely, because these are marking points. Okay. All these questions, especially those explain in your own words the reason, I would say that finding the answer is not a problem. You just need to go to these lines and just read the few lines above and after. You probably can get the answer there already. The challenge is how you will rephrase it such that it answers this question. Now, let's take a look at question 17. Why does the writer refer to pollution as an incidence side effect? Incidence here, you need to understand the meaning. This means that something is very gradual and subtle. That means very quiet in the harmful effects. So we are looking at how pollution may not destroy your lungs after you breathe in one day, right? If you continually be exposed to this kind of negative, this kind of bad pollutants, they will slowly but surely destroy your body. So we are looking at this effect. Moving down, we observe Sulin and Ahmed talking. So you can see that for this talking head question here, we are interested in different stakeholders. This is the type of question. So we are not so the examiner is not interested in Sulin and Ahmed arguing with one another with contrasting points, but they are looking at two different groups of people. The first one is the car manufacturer. The second one is the car users. As I've shared yesterday, I don't think there is an increase in difficulty if, let's say, we use stakeholders instead of just your contrasting viewpoints. The key is you need to find the evidence that is relevant to the statement here and the stakeholder. Okay. So you can see if the question just tell you from this paragraph quote an example, these are the more direct questions. The example is already packaged nicely for you. Your job is to stick it out and write it down. The more difficult kind of question is when they ask you to explain his position with reference to this. Because when you refer to something, it doesn't mean that you are able to take wholesale. You will need to modify the answer to fit the question. You need to check whether the examples, etc., are all relevant. So this will pose more a challenge to some students. Okay. Sorry. Okay, lastly, let's take a look at this summary. This summary here, you can see there are a few parts. Okay, they ask you to summarize the challenges road builders have faced and the improvements to overcome. You can see each of them. This tells me that challenge one will have solution one. There needs to be it needs to be paired up. Okay. The next thing to observe is apart from challenges and improvements, we have the time period specified for us, 20th and 21st century. This means that when I want to find my answers, I need to ask myself, which one does it fall under? Challenge for 20th, so I call it 1A, or is it challenge for 21st, 1B? And the improvements, is it from the 20th century, 2A or 2B? Because I'm differentiating this for you now because there are students who plan to only answer certain parts, so challenges and improvement for let's say 20th. But guys, your 10 points, your 10 possible points from the passage undercuts one the different combination and permutation you have. So it will be 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, these four permutations. So if you are going to sacrifice your, just let's say we ignore challenges for 21st, you're actually throwing away marks because there will not be sufficient points for you to get your full 8 marks for content. Okay? So at least with this rough understanding of the questions as well as what is in place for us, just give everyone some time to absorb this information first. And if you have any questions with regards to question analysis, do sound out. Hello, Shereen. Do anyone have questions regarding this question analysis or our non-fiction text so far? If not, let's take a look at the text now. So once again, before we read the text, it's important to understand what the text is going to talk about. And this is done through the synopsis. So we're looking at the challenges faced by road builders. That's all. Okay? This one is then by not Sherlyn account. Okay. Alright, so now looking back at the text. I'm not gonna read word by word to you. We are not here for a reading session, but I would just like to point out some important information that the text talks about. First thing, we talk about someone being obsessed, which means that someone is preoccupied, as I've earlier explained. And you can see that people are, because of their love for cars and for driving, they are gobbling up the land. Gobbling here means that you eat hurriedly and noisily. While it is not literally eating up the land, we are looking at how the way roads are being expanded. And the way that is being expanded is not really in positive view in positive light, because we are looking at how somebody like is munching away without self-control. Now, if we look further down, we observe that they tell us the narrow tracks were no longer adequate for transport. Okay. The next thing they also mention is where is it? When things were steep and rocky, they were very prone to accident. And because of these two changes or observations that were made by those road builders, then the result is here. The main streets were paved with stone to withstand the pressure of the horse carriage. Okay. Because the elements that are highlighted in blue, these two basically cause accidents. Now, if we observe, there is the word boggy here. Boggy, for those of you who don't know, means some muddy and soft ground. So when you have such road surface, your wheels or your vehicles that are heavy will get what we call bogged down in mud. That means it gets stuck in mud. The wheels just can't turn because the mud is very, very sticky. Now you can see this whole paragraph is talking about the 20th century road. And if we read further down in paragraph 2 here, they will have a clearer explanation of the changes of road over time. So they will still talk a bit about the 20th century road challenges. So we are looking firstly at how here the car's rubber tires sucked up the loose stones instead of consolidating them as metal carriage wheels. After that, then you can see immediately they talk about the solution, which is to spray the surface with tar to bind the stone together and provide a solid waterproof surface. And you can see the second challenge it talks about is here. Road vehicles become heavier. They demanded a tougher surface. So this is a challenge. And the solution is here, where they mix bitumen or asphalt with concrete to make a more durable surface. And paragraph 3 also talks about these changes in the challenges of road surfaces over time. So they give you a reason for the change. Consumerist society, which means a society that focus a lot on buying things. Okay, and they talk about how there are lorries, they are heavy, and they would cause traffic jams. And you also did mention something here that is interesting. That is, the family car has become larger, which means that they need more road space. And therefore, you can see that the dramatic increase in the width of all the roads, except for those minor roads, I mean those small roads that not many cars use. And you also can see that people have to break their journey for rest, refreshment, and to refuel. It means it's like a pit stop if you go on long trips in the states, in the United States. And therefore, the solution is they need to add large service areas to the construction plan. So it's like this car park in the middle of the expressway where the vehicles will stop. There are like 7-Eleven and other shops there when people can actually go and buy drinks, etc. Now, moving on, we observe that uh, the heavy tropical rainfall can also cause flash floods because the water cannot drain away. The surface of the road is impermeable. As such, you can see that there is greater attention on drainage and they install culverts, which are your pipes to channel the flow of water away to other parts. Okay, so you can see that for paragraph 2 and 3, which is also your summary section, the focus here is more on the solutions as well as the challenges. So as you read it, you see is all this just come right into your face, and you can tell that from the way um, the information is being presented, right? I've highlighted them in various colors. That the idea is you need to focus on the middle few sentences of each paragraph. Because if you observe, your front and your back are like your introduction and a mini conclusion. So your P, your point, as well as your link for your PU's structure. And that's where most information cannot be found. But in the middle, you can see that that's where the meat of the paragraph is. And all these main points, these meats that we are looking at, are actually all that we need for our summary writing actually. Okay. Okay, let's move on to our last paragraph here. Okay, so after mentioning the different challenges as well as solutions over time, we talk about how the challenge of just building roads itself is not so much about expansion of the roads, about the technology used, but it's about how there is an overpopulation of vehicles. Okay, so if we observe here, they talk about the insidious effects here, which is basically what the question that we discussed earlier was asking you about. Okay, so if you have forgotten, insidious means that you are trying to harm somebody in a very gradual, that means it takes a long time, and a very subtle way. Subtle means it's not really seen, not really heard, but something is happening behind the scenes. Okay, so the text here is talking about how there's an overpopulation of vehicles, and you can see the idea that's the central idea is on pollution and how it has negative effects. And you can see from the last part here, the last few lines, they discuss how the different stakeholders have a part to play. For example, you can see that people need to recognize the damage they are causing. So, as car drivers, you need to reduce your usage of vehicles to ensure pollution doesn't take place. Next, you also can observe that manufacturers have a part to play, or they have contributed to more energy efficient engines that have reduced the pollution. Okay, so when you read the uh, non-fiction text, there are a few things that we take note of. The first one is the points. So are they supporting or they are disagreeing with certain central idea, which is like your thesis. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing we need to take note is the stakeholder. So let's say we are talking about a certain point that is supportive of something. So does it apply to everyone? Right? That should be something you should ask yourself. And if it doesn't apply to everybody, why? So the text may talk about it, it may not talk about it. If the text doesn't say anything, it's either is you need to infer, or this not just it was just not one of the main focus of the text, then forget it. We don't talk about it anymore. Okay. Now this stakeholder part is plays a very important role, especially in your talking head questions. Okay, and for your points here, when you support or disagree, the very act that you can decipher whether the point is in support or is not in support of something actually or would help you in the questions where the writer asks, where you are asked about the writer's tone, or in certain questions where they ask you about the use of literary devices to bring out a certain point, because that process in your brain to determine whether it's supportive or not supportive actually contributes to your answer. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a look at some questions for our section C text. So the first one, they ask you, what's the writer feeling, his attitude towards car owners after he talks about how they're obsessed, how uh, they use cars uh, very, very often. So as we read earlier, is of a negative connotation, and we will say that his attitude is, you can say, disapproving, it's critical of car owners today. Next, they ask you for a word in the the subsequent sentence that describes or supports the writer's negative view. So the first sentence is the car obsessed individual one. You observe the second sentence. You can see the first half of the sentence doesn't have anything out of the norm. Okay, when something's out of the norm, that's where you know the examiner wants to test you on it. So the only thing is this word gobbling, and we already established the fact that gobbling is something that is bad. It doesn't reflect well. Actually, if you look at it, that will be our answer. Okay, so for part B, the word is gobbling. Now, let's take a look at question 15A. From line 6 to 7, what kind of track do you think was needed for the driving of the carts? So, line 6 to 7. We observe that here, narrow tracks are no longer adequate. By the very fact they tell you it's no longer adequate, it's not enough. You need to start thinking. If it's not narrow, then what must it be? So you can see it's like they're asking you for the anatonym for for this word narrow. And next, you can see the carts could be driven clear in surrounding terrain. There could be steep and rocky at one extreme and low lying and boggy. So you can see rocky and boggy, they are like on the opposite ends of a spectrum. That means the yeah. See, so the middle ground is what we are looking at, the best situation. So what will it mean? If it's not rocky and it's not boggy or not sticky, then we're just looking at a very flat, we're looking at a very smooth surface. As such, the answer that the examiner will look at is carts needed wide and smooth tracks. Okay. So this is not really a difficult question. It's just whether you are able to grasp the information right correctly. Next, they ask you what the type of accidents that can occur on a steep and rocky road as well as a low-lying and boggy road. So going back to our text, we can see how over here when it's steep and rocky and when it's boggy, accidents happen to all frequently, but they never tell you what kind of accidents. So you probably need to use a bit of your imagination to think. Let's say the road is rocky and you try to drive your cart there, what will happen? So when the rocks are of uneven uneven size, your cards may actually flip over. Okay. While on the other hand, if you see if the road is boggy, if it's like very sticky, the mud doesn't cannot take the pressure or the weight of your vehicle, what will happen? Your vehicle will get stuck in the mud and will be unable to move. That's what we call the vehicles being bogged down. Okay. So with that in mind, then we will use that as our answer. So when it's steep and rocky, you can say the carts would flip over. Next thing, when low lying and boggy, carts could be stuck in the mud. Yeah. Now moving on, we observe question 16. They ask you why the roads were paved with stone, and they want you to do some rephrasing. So if we observe over here, the main street is often paved with stone in order to withstand where is it? Yeah, here withstand the pressure from large horse-drawn carriages used by the wealthier citizens. Okay, so looking at this sentence, we already identified. Okay, when they have the word in order to, it is already telling you the back part here is the reason. Then the next question is, which word must we rephrase? So as I shared with everybody earlier, we will go for the nouns as well as the verbs. Okay, so looking at this sentence, we'll identify withstand, pressure. It's an adjective. We're describing how the size of the horse-drawn carriage. And over here, wealthiest. So I just want to bring to everybody's attention when we have this kind of word, which is like a superlative form, the wealthiest, the biggest. Your rephrase word also has to convey this meaning. So you cannot say you must use words like the richest, the most affluent. You cannot just say the rich people. Okay. So come, let's do some rephrasing now. So okay, let me answer the question. The main streets within towns had to bear the weight of huge horse-drawn carriages. Used by the most affluent people. So you can see, I use the term bear to replace withstand. Pressure is changed to weight. Large horse-drawn carriages are changed to huge horse-drawn carriages. And then the word with the superlative form, most, the wealthiest. I cannot change it to one word, so I just say the most affluent people. I want to use the word richest also can. Okay, for this one. Now, if we take a look at question 17 now, they ask you why pollution is referred to as an insidious side effect. So for this question, I'll say that you will be disadvantaged if you don't know what is this meaning. Because when the author when the question asks you why, they're just looking for a reason for using the word. And in order to explain the reason, you need to know the meaning of the word in the first place. So I have already given you the reason. So the answer is more or less there, right? So it will be the writer wants to emphasize that the side effects were gradual and subtle. So usually when the writer use the word, he wants to the thing that one of the thing you need to include is also this word emphasize, or you want to highlight, or you want to demonstrate or showcase or exemplify. And why is it that why you must use this word? Because he wants to bring out the certain key trait or certain key characteristic of the word that is that would help him support or show certain counter arguments to his view. Okay, so it's about how you use all these vocabulary to support what you're going to say. And in this case, the author wants to support his point that pollution and the effects doesn't happen overnight. That's why he used the word insidious, and he wants to emphasize this particular point. Okay, we are done with this page, so I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information here before we move on to our next two questions. Okay, let's take a look at question 18 now. Talking head question. So we want to identify one example for Sulin. Sulin is talking about how car manufacturers, this particular stakeholder has played their part in reducing pollution. So looking at our text here, we observe that the manufacturer of more efficient engines that run on lead-free petrol has eased pollution, but only to a certain extent. We will disregard the part where I say certain extent because we want to support Sulin's point, which is car manufacturers did play a part. Okay, so that will be our answer. It's pretty straightforward. So the answer will go. Sulin can state that car manufacturers have produced more efficient engines that use lead-free petrol. Then we can link back to the question, thereby reducing pollution. Okay. Now let's take a look at the more challenging question. Part B. So Ahmad is saying that car users need to take responsibility for pollution. And we need to give two examples to support his view. And it only can be found from 45 to 48. So let's go back here and we see 45 to 48, 45, 46, 47, 48. So we are just looking at the last four lines. So let's read it. People need to recognize the damage that they are causing by insisting on using their cars every day. and governments must concentrate on developing fast and cheap methods of public transport and encourage people to use them. So you can see the first thing that is very upfront that people need to do is here. They need to recognize the damage that they are causing. And the next one actually is more subtle, or you can't just obtain the answer directly. It's actually on the part where government has to uh, the answer is found here. So actually, you can see that car owners have to make this conscious choice to take public transport. This is the implied task of car owners. So that will be our answer. Okay, I'll just let that thought sink in. It's not so straightforward. Okay, so with this understanding, let's write the answer. So the first thing, Ahmad can state that so the first one here is your more direct part of the text, where car owners can be more aware that they can reduce pollution by reducing usage of their vehicles. Okay, and the next thing we are looking at is how car owners can reduce pollution by making a conscious choice to take public transport instead of driving. Okay, I think the main takeaway for the second point is actually got to do with this choice, where your public transport is can be considered a close substitute of your of your private vehicle, and therefore they can make this choice. Okay. Okay, and now let's take a look at the summary. The summary, I would say, is very tricky because you need to consider all four permutation combinations here. And where's my text? Okay, how we're going to do it is as such. I have my text with me here, paragraph 2 and 3. Okay, so we are going to identify the sorry. Okay, we're going to identify the points on my hard copy paper, and then we'll paraphrase and write together on my tablet. So we are looking at paragraphs. Let's refresh again. We're looking at paragraphs 2 and 3, and there are a few things we need to summarize. Firstly, we are looking at the challenges road builders face, and secondly, we are looking at some improvements they have done to overcome them. And these two aspects has to be considered in both the 20th and 21st centuries. So if we look at closely at paragraph 2, they talk about the 20th century. And how Here, the one challenge: cars rubber tires suck up the loose stones instead of consolidating them as metal carriage wheels had done. So what's the problem? The problem is that the rubber tires suck up the stones. Whether they consolidate or not is not our business. Okay, because it's not a direct challenge. So let me just paraphrase this. Let me show you how I will paraphrase this point. Say loose stones. Another word for loose, which is an adjective, we can say unconsolidated. Okay, so unconsolidated stones, instead of saying sucked, you could say they were caught in the rubber tires of cars. Secondly, we look at a solution that they have done. The solution, see, they already signpost this part for you, was to spray the surface with tar, binding the stones together and providing a solid waterproof surface. So the main idea is here, instead of saying you want to spray the road with tar, you can just say you apply tar to the road surface. And instead of saying you want to bind the stones, we just say we hold the stone together. Okay. Next, we observe road vehicles became heavier. So we can just say, take note, when there's the word heavier here, there's is a comparative language. So we need to say how this phenomenon came about. So I will use the word there's an increased vehicle weight. That means initially it was not so heavy, but now due to changes in the vehicle technology, it became heavier. Okay. And what's the solution? They need a tougher surface, usually of bitumen or asphalt combined with concrete. So to paraphrase the word tougher, I'll say you need a more durable road surface. And they also they usually need to mention these technical terms. So they say this usually of this and this tells you that we are looking at the constituent ingredients. So you'll just say made of bitumen and asphalt. And instead of saying combine, we could say that the concrete like play a role together. So we say complemented with concrete. All right. Next thing, uh, you can see the next thing they talk about is how, particularly with huge articulated lorries. So you can see when they use the word particularly, they're just zooming in on one case, or in this case, one type of vehicles that call for the more durable road surface. So we will not consider this point because it is an elaboration of the point that we just mentioned, number three, the increased vehicle weight. Now you see the next one they talk about is the device like roundabout traffic lights were introduced. But all these is not, there isn't any challenge. The challenge that is not faced by road users per se, but this is more of a regulatory challenge. So we are looking at the police or the government has to implement this thing. So we will not write this in our summary. Okay, so we are looking now at paragraph 3. So at the start, they say they just introduce the idea that the people living in the 21st century like to buy stuff, and this causes more severe problem because of your lorry, right? And how they have caused traffic jams even on expressways. So the first few lines here, if you observe, no problem nor solution mentioned. They're just looking at the trends and how the lorry is causing problems. But now you can see even the average family car become larger. So we're not only talking about lorries becoming larger, they are trying to draw that link that even that our normal cars that we drive are larger. So we will say that there are bigger size cars. Because we cannot use the adjective larger, we can't repeat it. Okay. Then we observe that there's a dramatic increase in the width of all but minor roads. So how this is a solution. With your bigger cars, you need to widen the roads significantly. Yeah, so that will be your solution. And now you observe that families need to break for rest and refreshment or to refuel. So basically, they need an area to, instead of what's the word there? To here break their journey for rest. So rest, we could say an area to recuperate. They say they need an area for refreshment to consume food and drinks. And now they say refuel and top up fuel. You can see that their journey uh break their journey. So break their journey means midway through the journey. So we also need to include such details in our answer. All right. And because of this, they will need to, you can here, add large service areas to their construction plans. So this means that they need to build large, sorry, add, you can just say include, not build. Large service areas in their, instead of construction plan, you can say their construction blueprint. Okay. Now moving on, we observe that in areas where there is heavy rainfall, there is uh, the water cannot flow away, right? So we will say that in areas with uh, intense is used to replace tropical. Sorry, intense is to replace heavy, or tropical we'll just keep it. Rainfall, you can change it as precipitation. You can see that uh, the wide stretches of impermeable waterproof surface mean that special attention be paid. So over here, actually, the challenge isn't told to us, because they only tell us the solution is you need to drain the water away. But why you need to drain the water away is because your surface doesn't absorb the water, and you have too much water at the surface, it becomes flooded. So you need to decipher this yourself and write it clearly. So I'll say areas with intense or tropical precipitation causes water to puddle, or you can say to accumulate on they say impermeable, you can use another word impervious, which is they have the same meaning, road surface. Okay. And you can see what's your solution for this. You have to over here pay to drainage, install culvert. So basically you need to build drainage systems. All right, and there we go. 10 points for summary. So my goal for today is not for you to watch me write the summary, but rather I want you to understand how to derive the points, how and what to rephrase. And now the last step is what to choose. I just need 8 points, so there isn't a benefit if I write all 10. So as a thinking student, I will eliminate the ones that are like I may remove number 3 and number 4 because they are quite long. Okay, and if you don't want number 3 and number 4, you also can eliminate 9 and 10. But before I go, let me just share with you how we have considered all points. The unconsolidated stone one is our 1A. So this is a problem of 20th century. 1B, solution of 20th century, we apply tar to the road surface. Then we also have another 1A here, the increased vehicle weight, and how we overcome it. We change the composition of the road surface. Then now we go to 2A. You have your bigger size cars, and 2B, how you overcome it, you widen your roads. And now we also have your humans that want to recuperate, want to recharge as a problem because they demand these areas. And what's your solution? You create them in your blueprints. Lastly, you talk about how you have the rainfall and causes water to puddle. That's your problem. And to overcome it, you create drainage systems. Ta-da! Everything, we have all areas covered. Okay? I'll say this summary isn't the most straightforward one. There are a lot of things that you need to identify as irrelevant and choose not to write in. And there are a lot of the points where the paraphrasing is or the rephrasing actually is not very easy. All right. But that being said, I hope that this is a good opportunity for you to increase your vocabulary, and hopefully you will be more prepared when you encounter similar questions in school. Okay. So I just leave the floor for any questions. If you have any questions with regards to the comprehension, with regards to anything regarding secondary school English, do feel free to type that in the comment section. If not, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on our Writers at Work TikTok. I'm teacher Nathan from Writers at Work. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like to learn more about our English lessons and classes, do check our link in bio. And for our friends who are in primary school, primary 5, primary 6, do join me this afternoon as we delve into SCGS P6 prelim from 2023. We'll be starting the TikTok live at 2:30 p.m. Okay, if not, I'll see everybody around on TikTok again. Bye bye.